How do you attack the Cowboys' backfield in FFPC drafts at the moment? Should you think twice before selecting Kirk Cousins in the FantasyPros Championship? And which NFC North running back is getting steamed up even further at the top of the ADP board? Plus, five-time FFPC main event and FantasyPros Championship league winner Derek Grier hops aboard to talk a little bit about Audric Estime, Bryce Young, and so much more. We've got a great show for you. Ferrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all of you Bulkaholics and Ferrelliacs. Welcome into the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com, the Fantasy Football Players Championship. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. You know me from the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, the FFPC, and of course, the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show on the Better Sports Network. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Ferrell Elliott. Coming up on tonight's show, Ferrell and I are going to call out our thoughts on the Lions offense in 2024, the rise of Ben Sinnott, and much more. Plus, five-time FFPC main event and FantasyPros Championship league champion Derek Grier is going to hop aboard to talk a little bit about some of his squads that he's already drafted this year and what the keys will be to winning a pair of $1 million grand prizes in the FFPC this year, in the FFPC main event and the FantasyPros Championship. Speaking of which, the FantasyPros Championship has been live for a while. Have you not drafted yet? What are you waiting for? Get in now and draft for $1 million at myffpc.com. $6 million prize pool. The winner will get a seven-figure grand prize. Don't forget about the FFPC main event early bird deadline. That's coming up in about 2.5 weeks. We got a little over 2 weeks to go before that. So make sure you're getting in on that to get a discount on your first team. And that will also get you in the drawing for the Pros versus Joes competition that we'll be having coming up later on in the end of July. I believe all the drafts are at the end of July this year. I don't think we have any seeping into August. And if you're lucky enough to be selected in that, you'll be going up against 5 other Joes and 6 other Pros. We'll have 7 leagues, so that's 84 total competitors in this. And the winner of each 12-team league will get a free entry into the FFPC main event in 2025, and you can take a chance at winning $1 million then for free if you're lucky enough to survive your FFPC if you're lucky enough to get into the Pros versus Joes drawing and then survive the Pros versus Joes league there. Okay, Empire Leagues are also going on at myffpc.com. Check that out. It's something brand new this year. It's a progressive way of playing Dynasty. Basically, half of the pot every single year gets set aside, and once one team wins it 2 years in a row, they not only win first prize for that year, but they'll also win the Empire pot. The league disbands, everybody gets their deposits back, and you're free to join another Empire League. We have your classic Dynasty Leagues there as well. Those start at $100, go all the way up to $5,000. So check that out at myffpc.com, myffpc.com. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, share, and get notified. Comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies every time we go live, which will be tonight and tomorrow. So you get back-to-back nights here. Normally get back-to-back nights Thursday and Friday. We're doing Wednesday and Thursday this week. So make sure you're clicking that bell so you know every time we go live here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. And don't forget, coming up on Monday, and I'll try to remember to bring this up at the end of the show too. But Aiden LaCorey, Dave Terpoli, and I believe Dan Williamson from Player Profiler are all going to be doing a live FFPC best ball draft Monday night. They'll cover that live. I think Terp and Dan are going to be combining on a team, and they'll draft that live, and you can watch that unfold. We'll have full coverage, pick-by-pick coverage on Monday night. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. So let's get into tonight's episode, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm so glad you're joining us on a Wednesday tonight. I know that we don't normally do Wednesday shows, but I do have a prior commitment on Friday, and so I wanted to make sure we got an HSFF hour in this week, and we, lo and behold, we did on Wednesday night. So we'll get into it right now, and we'll kick things off. And I apologize, I was at my daughter's soccer practice, so I've seen bits and pieces of the schedule. I know a little bit about it, but I have not taken my full dive into it yet. We will do that coming up probably next week, and we might touch on it a little bit tonight. We'll get to the emails. By the way, if you want to email us, highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com is ready to go. Facebook.com/HSFF hour. Of course, check out Ferrell's KFFSC, Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. And we're on X as well at HSFF hour at Eric Balkman. Send those questions in. We'll try to get to all of them in the fantasy feedback segment coming up later on in the show. Shout out to our audio engineer, my best friend Bryce, and our producer and mutual friend Rob as well. The Dallas Cowboys head coach, Mike McCarthy, said this week that they are going to be using a running back by committee. No surprise there, based on how they did in free agency, based on how they did in the draft. The feature back approach that was used during Ezekiel Elliott's first stint with the Dallas Cowboys is not going to happen. Apparently, Mike McCarthy thinks Elliott's capable of it, but he doesn't want to put that evil on him, Ricky Bobby. So that's not what's going to happen. He's going to be splitting time with Rico Dowdle. Deuce Vaughn, I've never been a Deuce Vaughn guy. I understand he's a kind of a gadget player. What does Matt Waldman from Football Guys always say about gadget players? Sometimes those gadgets get lost in the cushions of the sofa, and you never are able to deploy them. So for best ball leagues, yeah, I get it if you want to take a shot on Deuce Vaughn late. But right now, you're talking about Elliott, Dowdle, and then Royce Freeman there as well. I don't think all four of those guys make the team either. And it's probably going to be Freeman as the odd man out. When you look at the mojo on this, and if you are a player in the FFPC, you play in the FFPC, you want to make sure you subscribe to FantasyMojo.com, at FantasyMojo on X. Darren Armani, not only the godfather of the Pros versus Joes competition, but he puts all this wonderful ADP data together for us as well. When we look at the Fantasy Pros Championship data over the last week, we see right now the first running back off the board is indeed Ezekiel Elliott. But he's not going until the 10th round. Rico Dowdle is going at the 12th round, and that is it. There's no other Dallas running backs being taken. So Deuce Vaughn is free. I would not recommend him in a Fantasy Pros Championship draft. Quite frankly, I don't know how much you're going to get from Elliott or Dowdle. You know, I often say that you want to take the cheapest guy, and there's Joe Del Zanero, Baker Boy. There's no such thing as a bad pick after the 10th round or in the double-digit rounds. So if you want to take Elliott there, if you want to take Dowdle, that's fine, and maybe you'll be able to plug him in 2 or 3 weeks this year. If somebody's hurt, if Dowdle's hurt, then you can plug Elliott in. If Elliott's hurt, then you can plug Dowdle in. But it's not an exciting league-winning type of proposition. Now, if you want to talk about potential league winners in the 10th or 11th round at running back, there are players there. Zach Charbonnet is going there. Again, if Kenneth Walker, anything happens to him, you could go with Charbonnet, who would be the feature back in Seattle. Jalen Wright, yeah, I know he's third on the depth chart now, but Raheem Mostert is number 1 on that depth chart. He's had a ton of injuries. Devon Achane also failed to stay healthy last season as well. So now you're looking at Jalen Wright as maybe a torn ligament away or a soft tissue injury away from being a guy that you can start 6 or 7 weeks. I'd be much more likely to have a guy like him than Elliott or Dowdle. Marshawn Lloyd is another guy I really like this year. No, not just because he's a Packer, but I really like Marshawn Lloyd for what he can do, not only when Josh Jacobs is healthy, but if Jacobs were to miss any time, I think Lloyd can come in there and easily be a top 10 back if Jacobs were to miss. So those are just some of the few guys that I like better than Elliott and Dowdle. You could make a case that Ray Davis or Antonio Gibson, who are both going after those Cowboys running backs as well. You can make a case that they are more exciting, that they are more likely to get you higher on that championship sprint leaderboard when we hit the last 3 weeks of the season. So those would be the players I'd be looking at there. I'll welcome in my co-host right now. He's the definitive commissioner of fantasy football. Check him out at KFFSC.com. It is Ferrell Elliott. Ferrell, welcome aboard tonight, man. So glad to have you on a Wednesday.
Buddy, I apologize for my lateness. The telephone, it's football camp season and everything's going a little crazy. So here I am, and I would rather talk football with you than any of the dozens that I've talked it over with today.
Well, let's lead into this with the Falcons quarterback situation,
Okay.
Ferrell. Kirk Cousins was on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, and he says he's not angry with the Falcons for drafting Michael Penix. He said his only priority is winning. Cousins said that no matter who you are in the NFL, you can't assume that the team is not going to draft your replacement. Quote, this wasn't like a foreign concept. This is the NFL. Anything can happen. We're looking at you, Aaron Rodgers. This is the way you're supposed to react to this. So kudos to Kirk Cousins here. Now, Pro Football Talk was talking about this, about how patient they're going to be with Cousins. I think he's going to be fine if he's healthy. If he's not healthy or if he's playing hurt, you can stick in Michael Penix, a player who is ready to play right now. Raheem Morris, not Mostert. Raheem Morris told reporters this past Friday that Cousins is cleared right now to participate in all aspects of what the club is doing in phase 2 of the offseason program. Spoiler alert, not much. Cousins thinks he's going to be full speed by the time training camp begins. Ferrell, if I look at the mojo on Kirk Cousins right now, he's the quarterback 18 at the 1407. I'm fine with that price as a backup quarterback. The problem I'll have with it is if he starts getting steamed up when we think about, oh my goodness, Arthur Smith is gone, Drake London's there, Kyle Pitts is there, they got Mooney, they got Bijan Robinson. This is a team that now finally has a quarterback and maybe the proper coaching to unleash this offense, and then Cousins could creep up. I think he's fine where he is right now, but as we get higher, I guess I would be a little bit nervous. Does Penix affect how you would be drafting Kirk Cousins this season?
Kirk Cousins is an absolute steal, Balky. Get him in every draft you're drafting in. I can't believe some of the quarterbacks that are going in the double-digit rounds, and we've done a good job promoting them, and I'll continue to promote this player. We can promote Goff. You've answered your own question. Look at all these tools, and look at the people that are coming in to work with them, and there's a good vibe in that Atlanta Falcons locker room. The players are all coming together. Penix looks great. And there may be some packages installed for him, but not enough to take away what Cousins can do with 500 passes in the air. That's what you're going to get. Fantasy players should look at the statistical output that's going to come from this football team and realize no matter how many games Atlanta wins, I think that the over and under is set at 9 for them this year. Whether they get over it or not, that has to do in the real football world. Now, the real football world, let's talk about it. Everybody says, why would they draft that? Okay, they've got Cousins on a 4-year contract. They got 2 years guaranteed. Cousins, who has the history of showing up at the right place at the right time and having the performances to get him there and having the circumstances in a league-wide open up for him. Cousins could look at another big contract before it's over in 2 years. Or he could just stay an Atlanta Falcon while Michael Penix stays on the minimum, on the draft pick rookie salary cap.
I think that's going to be a fascinating team to watch as we move forward this 2024 NFL season. I'm very excited about it. I'm very bullish on it, and I'm with you. I think Cousins is a steal. Penix, I don't know. I mean, like, how much can he really affect how you feel about Kirk Cousins given where he's going? I mean, who are you going to take if not Cousins? Rodgers? Okay, I think you can make the case you take Rodgers over him. Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford, Deshaun Watson, Geno Smith. I mean, those guys are fine, but I think it's hard to make a case of why you'd want those players, again, with the exception being Aaron Rodgers. And even then, I think a lot of people would take Kirk Cousins ahead of him as well. The last team I want to talk about here, Ferrell, before Derek Grier pops on to talk fantasy with us, is the Lions. Lions GM Brad Holmes Pro Football Talk reported that Brad Holmes expects Jahmyr Gibbs is going to see more of a workload than he did last year this season. Gibbs should see a larger share of the touches. Quote, I definitely would expect him to see more of a load, but David Montgomery will still be here too. Now, Gibbs actually famously got out-touched by David Montgomery in 2023, but in fantasy points, he finished as the running back 10. Now, he's being drafted as running back 4 at this point, Ferrell. Can he go higher than that based on this Brad Holmes news? I mean, I guess you could make the case that he could leapfrog Bijan Robinson, but Christian McCaffrey's ADP of 101, Breece Hall's of 104, that's going to be a tall order for Gibbs to jump up 7 picks is basically where it would be to if you want a Gibbs on your team ahead of some of these other running backs. So I think that if you want to take him over Robinson, no problem there. But how high would you take him? Would you take him over Amon-Ra St. Brown? Would you take him over Jefferson or Chase or Tyreek Hill? That's what fantasy owners are going to have to grapple with. I know they're licking their chops at this news. I just wonder how far up we can push Jahmyr Gibbs up the ADP board.
I think he should stay where he is now, and based on this news, should validate where people have been drafting him all summer. We had some guests come on the show, and I don't remember which one it was, because when they say something I disagree with, I don't mark it down. When they agree with it, I put a big plus by their name. But, there's no way that you can take any of these Detroit players. And if you want to start talking quarterback, we could talk about the one that they just gave this fantastic contract to. But there's no way you can take any of these Detroit players and expect a regression. And lots of people want to talk about that, Gibbs included. But let's don't get too far out in front of it based on where he's going. Your first round picks. I'm in a draft right now, and we started with 3 receivers, a slow draft. It started in the first round with 3 receivers coming off the board. There's a lot of first round talent. Wherever Gibbs falls towards the end of that, beginning of the second, where does Darren Armani have him, Balky?
Right now, he's at the running back 4 at the 111. It's right in between Puka Nacua and A.J. Brown.
That's where he needs to be. That's where he should stay. Somebody will come to Planet Hollywood and say, I've got to have him, and he could go up the board, and that drafter necessarily wouldn't be wrong. But, let's stay where he is right now and be glad to get him.
We will do that for sure. And, I'm not going to overdraft Gibbs. And the thing is, if you don't get one of those top 4, well, then you're in the Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkleys of the world in the early second round. I think that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
Then Stavolino will say you are in the Josh Jacobs world.
And he's in
2 top-of-the-line wide receivers to put with it.
And we'll see what happens with Jacobs. I think Jacobs is an interesting guy to watch this summer too.
Who's Jacobs playing for, Balky?
He is playing for my Green Bay football Packers.
I thought you heard about that. I was confident you'd heard about it.
Yeah, no, they couldn't keep that out of the news from me. One of the guys that we just got done talking about Jahmyr Gibbs. Let's talk about his real life teammate Jared Goff and his new deal here. 4 years, $212 million. He's thrown for over 12,000 yards, 78 touchdowns, and 27 picks in 3 years with Detroit. 12-5 was the record last year. They got to the NFC Championship game. This was a player that I think the Lions were more than willing to take on to make the contracts sort of match up when they traded Stafford. They wanted all that draft capital. And Goff, quite frankly, has outplayed his old contract. Now he's the second highest paid quarterback in the league on a per year basis. Ferrell, I think Jared Goff continues to get disrespected in drafts. He is going right now. And again, this is a player that has Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Jamison Williams, who I know a lot of people are thinking he's finally going to break out this year. Jared Goff is quarterback 17, Ferrell. Quarterback 17 at the 1305. We talk about Kirk Cousins being a steal. I love Jared Goff. If I wait on quarterback and I take the 11th or 12th guy off the board, totally comfortable with Jared Goff being my backup. And if I really wanted to be a jerk about it, maybe I could wait until the 13th round to take Jared Goff as my number 1 quarterback. I don't know if I'd get that adventurous, but it's certainly a possible thing to happen for drafts for me this year. But the Lions, with Goff and all these weapons, man, I love Jared Goff, and this contract sort of cements my belief in him.
Well, the biggest day in determining Jared Goff's fantasy value was today. Because if you want to own and draft Jared Goff, you're going to start him every time that Detroit revs it up there in the Motor City. That's where you want to be. You want to have Jared Goff as your number 1 quarterback. Go to the game logs and look at it last year. It's 2 substantial quarterback performances that are easily differentiated by what he did in the dome at home, and perhaps what he might also do in any other games that are on the carpet under the dome on the road this year. But in Detroit, when he plays, it's to be hard pressed to put another quarterback in front of him if it's not that group of the Magic 4 or so. So what I believe you can do now is put together a schedule and match a quarterback to that schedule that responds favorably to availability when Jared Goff is on the road. Because if you do that, with 2 double-digit quarterbacks, you're on your way to a winning situation. I mean, I'm sure that's what, our guys, Dom Gazzetti and Billy Hollywood, they're already in the chat room talking about where the bye weeks are in. You gave them a great answer. And, Balky, all your answers are usually correct. You said week 13, there's no teams on bye. And if we're standing by that, then we're in a really good situation because that's the KFFSC championship week. So I'm pleased. That's like Christmas here in May. And there's lots of other things that we're going to learn with the schedule. And I for all our early drafters, I regret that it took so damn long for the NFL to bring the schedule. This is the latest announcement since 1990. But getting back to your question, Jared Goff's proficiency has a lot to do about where he is and when he is. Find a quarterback to put with him to play when he is on the road, and I think you've got a winning formula.
Yeah, it is a winning formula. I blame Netflix for how long it took for this schedule.
Oh, yeah.
The NFL negotiating with them, you know how hard a negotiator that Netflix is. So I'm glad they got that worked out, and I'm glad the schedule's out. And most importantly, I'm glad we get to bring on our guest right now. He's a 5-time champion in the FFPC main event and the Fantasy Pros Championship. He's here tonight to break down how his drafts have gone so far this season, as well as what his plans are going to be on winning a pair of $1 million grand prizes in both the FFPC main event and the Fantasy Pros Championship. Please welcome onto the program the incomparable Derek Grier. Derek, thanks for hanging out with us tonight, man. We really appreciate it. Oh, I think we hold on. I might have him muted. Sorry, Derek. I apologize. I had you. No, I still have you muted.
He has him muted, buddy.
He has. Okay. Hold on.
Open up your microphone there.
See if I can figure this out.
You cannot mute a smile
Derek,
like that.
I'm going to post this in the chat. Derek, I think you are muted. Hold on. Let's see if we can get him on now. We got the video for him.
Looking good. We have double video.
Hold on. Let me kick. Okay, hold on. I'm going to pop him out right now, and we will bring. I will bring. I'll see if I can communicate with him here.
Yeah, why don't you give him a call, Balky, on your cellular device?
On my cellular.
In the meantime, I'll talk more about the magic of Jared Goff. And I'll also talk about what I'm doing in the FFPC right now is drafting a best ball, not a tournament best ball, but a 12-man best ball. And I think that is real good exercise and activity for me at this point of the season. But I'm scheduled to go off in the slow draft. And Balky, when do they start the main event slow drafts? Is it July 1st?
Yeah, they're going to start early July. This is the first year we've ever done it that we're having
fantastic
early. But
well, my 12-team division or league, as the FFPC refers to them, has been sold out for months. And I'll be playing with your old pal Rich Bates, Balky. Bates and I taking on the field in the FFPC. It's fascinating.
What a great time it is to be Rich Bates too, with how good the Eagles are. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. He's living it up. He's living it up.
And it'll be fun to talk with him in Louisville about the big Eagles Packers week 1 matchup too.
The Packers. Yeah, we got the Packers. Balky, I thought you were going to miss an opportunity there to talk about the Packers.
Nope, never. I'm waiting for Terp when we're out in Vegas. I'm waiting for Terp to say, Balky, I bought us tickets. We're flying to Sao Paulo. And we're gonna watch the Packers-Eagles game there, and then we'll fly back to Vegas.
You're expecting Terp to do that?
Well, he might. You never know.
Terp still owes us for dinner from the Treylon Burks bet that he lost.
Yeah.
Over Bobby Trees. It's that's so I mean, and you and I think once you've flown to Las Vegas, the last thing you want to do is get on some other air device that's going to take you somewhere else. That's really not. That's really not how we want to do it. But I'll tell you what, Balky, let's go back to Vegas for week 15, December 16th. Let's fly out there, the 14th or the 15th. Let's talk to the Dizzle about it and anyone else that would like to go because we have Monday night, the Atlanta Falcons at Las Vegas. there in mid-December. You talk about an early Christmas gift. And we could invite Terp because that might be the only way we'll ever collect on our free dinner.
That's a possibility. And I definitely don't want to miss out on a free dinner, especially with where Terp would take us. Okay, let's bring in our guest now tonight, ladies and gentlemen, the 5-time FFPC main event and Fantasy Pros Championship league winner, Derek Grier. Derek, I think we got you now. You should be good to go as far as audio goes. Welcome in, and thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, man, beautiful.
Perfect. We hear you.
Beautiful.
All right.
This is excellent. This is excellent to have you aboard. I normally do the show on Fridays, but I'm glad we could get it done Wednesday this week, and I'm glad you could join us, Derek. We got plenty of fantasy questions for you. Before we get to that, can you tell us what you're doing for a living nowadays?
Right now, I retired 3 years ago. I was an IT professional for 35 years in the entertainment industry. Actually, I worked for Fox Sports.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah,
that is fantastic.
Yes, for 19 years with the Walt Disney and Fox Company, and I retired 3 years ago.
Well, good on you. Congratulations.
Here's to you, brother, and Bart Simpson for making it work. God bless you.
That's how I started my career in fantasy football in 2004. I was working for Fox, so we started a little league there at the office there, and it went pretty well there for about 10 years. I was commissioning that league for 10 years. Never won that league, though. I never won it. They always harp on me about it. I'll say, hey, I'm commissioner. That's why I can't win it. So
it's too much. It's too much work when you're a commissioner to win anything. That's at least that's my excuse. However,
we were the first good year out there to put that premium tight end point system in.
Yeah. Well, we can do that. I can tell you something. There's a premium running back in Denver last year, and I was high on him. I was really high on him. I think that I'm satisfied with my and Balky and I shared it on air, and I think, Balky, you reluctantly followed me in the Javonte Williams. But we said we beat the drum for him all summer long. And, with all the problems that went on in Denver, I can see the reason to continue beating that drum again. Your thoughts about Javonte Williams or where he's going in the draft? Is there somebody else in that neighborhood you like better?
I kind of like Javonte. I had him on a couple teams last year. I kind of like him a little bit there, but who I fell in love with is the rookie they drafted, Audric Estime.
Mm-hmm. What do you like about Estime?
I'm looking at him as a Alvin Kamara in Mark Ingram days when Sean Payton was coaching the Saints. They had that combo backfield with Kamara and Mark Ingram. So that's kind of my seeing that type of game plan around those running backs in Denver.
I'm looking for Larry Zonka. I'll take you back. That's pre-Fox days. I'm looking for Larry Zonka. And you know what? He could do it. He's going to be a violent straight-ahead runner, and he can do it. And let's let him prove that you can have running back success without blowing out a classy 40 time at the combine.
And Estime is an interesting guy. If it is truly thunder and lightning there this year for Denver, Audric Estime right now, running back 58 at the 14-11. So you can get him, in drafts if you want. I mean, you talk about Javonte Williams. Now, granted, this will be his first full year coming off that ACL tear, a year removed basically, where they say you start to, gain some of your explosiveness back. He's running back 28, the 8th round. You can get the other guy in that backfield 6 rounds later too, if you're looking for the Denver running back on the cheap.
Yes, exactly. But I'm also a little bit concerned now about Blake Watson. I understand that he's a small guy, but he's basically a third down guy.
Their scout that handled Memphis this year was in love with him from day one, and he truly is a third down pass catching back. And a lot of teams graded him as a special teams player, and an average backup, but no, I can see the possibilities there too. So it's a good call. I don't think you should let it bother you though with Williams.
Not at all. I'm drafting him every chance I get an opportunity to take Estime right now, and also Javonte Williams. But I'm kind of fading him in a way a little bit. I'm just concerned about his health and his availability going mid-season. Because Sean Payton, he's going to run the football.
Right. Yeah.
Harbaugh and the Chargers going to run the football. I see Sean Payton that way. He's going to run the football. He's going to protect the quarterback. If he's going to start Bo Nix, it's going to be a running type of offense. But again, the division they're in, facing the Kansas City Chiefs defense twice, Denver's defense twice, they're going to have a rough time running that ball. But they're going to have to pass. They're going to have to pass. I'm a little bit concerned about that offense.
We're going to come back to Denver in a minute, but I bet Balky wants to ask you about the Packers or something.
No, nothing about the Packers yet. We'll get to the Packers in a little bit, but no, it's interesting because I sent out a bunch of trade offers in my KFFSC Dynasty leagues today, and I received a few. And Derek, not only did I get some offers for Moss, I sent out, or I should say this. I got an offer to acquire Moss. I also got an offer to trade Moss away. And I think Moss is interesting this year in Cincinnati with no Joe Mixon there. They didn't necessarily, address the running back situation in the draft. They got Chase Brown last year, obviously. When you look at the Bengals running back situation, is there one guy that stands out to you that, this is probably the player I should be targeting in this running back room this season?
You got it. Zach Moss. Zach Moss all the way. He's my guy, and I've already drafted him. I already drafted 5 teams already for the Fantasy Pros, and I believe I have him on three of those out of those 5 teams. So Zach Moss, hands down. In fact, on my best ball, I've already drafted probably 5 best ball tournament teams already. I believe I have him in 3 or 4 of those teams as well. I'm all in on Zach Moss this year. All in on Zach Moss. I think he's going to be a beast in that backfield. Chase Brown. Yes, he's going to get some third down work. He's going to get some relief work, but Zach Moss is going to be my guy all year long, and hopefully he can stay healthy. And Cincinnati, even know how they're going to throw the ball around the yard.
Yep,
pass that football around the yard. But again, it starts with that run. You get that play action, pass and play. I love Zach Moss this year. Yeah.
There's a triumvirate of talent. The trident of wide receivers that have come into the NFL. And we have talked about them ad nauseum on this show. We have exhausted them. And I think they're going to be very good. And everybody knows who we're talking about. And I drafted some in dynasty drafts, and great, it's over. Okay, now I just finished a draft. Fantasy Pro draft, like you. I think I'm 4 or 5 in.
Yeah.
I was thrilled with the wide receiver, double-digit wide receiver rookie talent that's available. I'm also thrilled with players that are in their second and third year at the position and are available. It makes me think that running back heavy, tight end heavy, go ahead and spend some early money on quarterback, early draft capital on quarterback. That's my strategy, because when I can get these kind of receivers late, I think that it's going to be a beautiful thing. Your thoughts, break it down for us, the guys that my brother Grier loves, the wide receivers. Do you share the love and appreciation for these guys who are available?
Malachi.
There you go.
Malachi Corley.
Yes, sir.
100% on Malachi.
Mm-hmm.
Jets organization, the coaching staff, everybody loves this guy.
Who wouldn't?
I watched the film of him, and I'm like, yes, I'm in 100% on the Malachi Corley.
Yes, sir. We had to drag co-host, Balky. We had to drag him by the beard to Malachi Corley. I am so glad.
I love it. I love the name too.
I was late to the Malachi Corley party, but I'm here. The champagne tastes great. I'm having a blast.
You got the first invitation, but you were late to come. Who's next?
Other one is Mr. Thomas, Brian Thomas, Jacksonville.
Yes, sir.
Woo! I love the guy. I watched a lot of film on him. I like the Steve Smith Sr. on YouTube. He has he went over the last month or two. He went over before the draft on who he loved at these wide receivers.
And he don't like nothing.
No, he doesn't.
He don't like nothing.
He loved the kid, and I'm like, guess what? I love him too.
Yeah,
he's a target of mine on all my drafts. He's a target besides the main three guys, because the main three guys, they go in the draft capitals up there pretty in the first, second round.
Oh yeah, those guys are going to have to catch 80 passes to pay for that draft spot, and then you get into that argument that rookie receivers, it's a learning curve no matter what it is. Okay, are you through with generating ones? Because I want to throw some names at you, but I don't want to steal your preparatory thunder.
Who do you have, Elliott?
Oh man, I got some guys. How about from the fellas playing up in the 49ers? He's drafted in the first round, Pearsall. Nobody seems to act like he's a first-round receiver. What do you think about Pearsall?
I got him too. He's my target. He's one of my target wide receivers as well. I got him right here pinned up I'm in my war room, my draft war room.
Mm-hmm. Balky, help us out, because you got to pay. I think you've got to pay 10th round, 11th round capital to get him.
You got to get it though. But you got Ayuk over there and Kittle, and you got Debo, but he may get some run there because Debo, every year he seems to get injured. He's going to miss a few games, and you got to factor that in, And
I think he brings an element to this team that keeps them on the field, and I like what he does for the quarterback. We're talking about late round quarterbacks. I like what he does for a quarterback. Now, and maybe we'll get to some of this later, but what about Leggett? We're SEC people back here in Kentucky. And we'll tell you that when South Carolina comes to town, he was legit. What can you tell us about Leggett?
I like him as well. Like I said, I watched his video. I watched film on him. I did his profile, and I'm like, he's with with Panthers, and so that pushes Bryce Young up the ladder a little bit. It's okay now. Getting some weapons now, and
yes, sir. Everybody picking on Bryce Young, and we might get to Bryce Young later on, but everybody picking on Bryce Young. His number one target last year was a 33-year-old possession receiver. It was great for fantasy purposes. It wasn't so great for Bryce Young. What do you think?
I'm feeling on a couple of my teams, so thank you, Bryce, for feeling the ball.
Yeah, who would have thought that Adam Thielen in the 16th round was your winner? Balky, I got one more. I'd like to hear, before we use up all the airtime talking about our rookie receivers. You might have one. Green Bay might have a rookie hit away for all I know. But you go right up the coast and talk to me about the kind of player that Troy Franklin was, and tell me why he's in the 17th round, 16th round. Balky, am I getting these Armani numbers right?
You're looking at Pearsall and
no, we've moved on.
I wanted to say this before. Pearsall and Leggett, two of the players that you brought up, Ferrell, they're very, very close to each other. 1307 for Leggett, 1311 for Pearsall, wide receiver 60, wide receiver 62. That's where those players are going in redraft. And another receiver that we didn't talk about that's still going in that territory is Jermaine Burton. Malachi Corley is about a round later in the mid.
Crazy. Just maybe, maybe, Brother Grier, we should just quit talking about Malachi. We just, it's like it's a biblical name, and there's some phrases in the Bible not as popular as others. Let's just leave it in the Bible, but keep it in ours. Now, okay, second and third year receivers that are at giveaway prices in the draft don't make any sense. We're talking about matching up. Leggett, you're going to have some people start talking about the quarterback and say, "Oh, the quarterback didn't do anything. The quarterback has a rough time." And let's get out of that. We got a great quarterback over in Baltimore. He's got a wide receiver named Bateman, who's now entering his third year. That they're promising they're going to make sure that this player catches more than 30 passes. Are you buying in on that?
I'm not buying in on that.
Nope, you can't get there.
I gotta wait till I see him on preseason. Give me a preseason game or two, and Zay Flowers is the guy.
Over your right shoulder is the lovely Bolt hanging there, right in it. And within the Bolts organization is the wide receiver Johnston. Are you buying in on Quentin as a performer?
Yes. This is the year. I believe this is the year. He's gonna be productive.
Well, you would hope so, because Harbaugh always confuses me. I looked at the depth chart of the Chargers. They got 3 wide receivers named Johnson and one named Johnston. Sometimes I think, he's re-signing the same guy, he thinks, maybe. I don't know. That's all I got with receivers, Balky, but Brother Grier's ready for all of them.
Yeah, and Dom Gazzetti, speaking of the Bolts, he wants to know, Derek, how about our Irish lad? And I'm assuming by Irish lad, it's the Los Angeles Chargers lad McConkey.
Yeah.
I don't know how Irish he is, but that's
Scottish, isn't it?
Dom Gazzetti. But Lad McConkey's an interesting guy too, because he landed in a pretty good spot. A lot of targets vacated by Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, and some by Gerald Everett, and some by Austin Eckler too as well. I mean, there's a lot to like about Lad McConkey, right, Derek?
Very, very much so. Very much so. But again, we look at the coach now. We got a new coach in here with a new offensive philosophy, and I believe they're gonna maybe try to have a balanced attack. And you didn't mention the running back, Vidal. I think his name's Vidal.
Oh yeah. Vidal, Kamani Vidal.
I'm on it. Don't draft him, everybody out there. I'm telling you.
Permar is coming in. Permar has now moved on to poetry. This is great. And that is a very Irish name, Balky McConkey. That is a very Irish name. So
I'll have him on all my teams, guys. So if week 16, 17, I'm rolling. Hopefully I'm rolling. And hopefully I have him in my lineup at that time. So I'm telling everybody out there, all the fantasy players, FFPC, don't draft him. Stay away.
No, don't draft him.
Don't draft Kamani Vidal in the 12th round. Take it with a grain of salt. I think we know how Derek truly feels about that. All right. So Derek, let's talk about stacks. Houston is going to be a popular stack this year with the emergence of CJ Stroud last season. If you are building a stack in the Fantasy Pros Championship or the FFPC Best Ball Tournament, would you prefer a Stroud Diggs stack, or would you prefer Stroud and Nico Collins?
Stroud and Mr. Diggs. I'm going Mr. Diggs. Diggs is a proven 1,000-yard receiver every single year since he's been played just about. Everybody talking about he's personal. He gets too personal. He wants to hog all the targets. I don't believe that. I believe he wants to win. I believe this team wants to win. That's why they made the trade. Now, I believe it frees up a little bit more for the other guy, Tank Dell. Tank's going to, if he comes in healthy, look for Tank Dell to continue to add on what he did from last year. Nico's going to be Nico. He's going to get his targets. And I believe the division that they're in, it's going to be a high-scoring division. I just looked at the schedule a minute ago since it just came out. This is going to be an awesome division. It's going to be some scores put up every single week, 25, 30 points every single week. I believe we're in for an exciting season in that division. In fact, every division, I believe, is going to be very exciting. A lot of offensive plays. It's going to be, of course, the Baltimore Ravens defense, Cleveland defense. That conference is going to be the hardest defensive conference division that I see right now. But that particular division is going to be awesome, guys. I really love that division. I love the players there. Right now, I drafted I got CJ in 3 or 4 of my teams right now. And he's my guy right now. I get him as soon as I get a chance to click him in the 4th, 5th round. Boom, I'm taking him. So and then I try to find Tank Dale or either Stephon or Nico, whichever one I can get. I'll stack them. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think one of my best ball teams right now, I think I have 3 of them. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
All the same team. Plus, I have Schultz.
Don't forget Schultz. Don't sleep on Schultz.
Yeah.
I'm the tight end over there. I got him too. I had him last year on 2 or 3 of my teams, and I'm all in on Schultz as well. So, any good quarterback of that nature, you got to have them. You got to have their offensive wide receivers, tight ends, running backs around them. You got to draft them. But right now Diggs going to 3rd, 4th round. I believe he's going to 3rd round.
And I think Diggs is in a place. I don't know how many rosters I would have picked for that personality, but I think he's a perfect fit here. I think he's in the right place. That's in a lot of ways, in a lot of mix that will work for him. It's not he's a bad guy. He's just a guy that he goes on one speed. You kind of get tired of one speed. So.
Right, but he's also in this last year, this 1-year contract.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
The right attitude.
betting on himself, so to speak, which is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Let's talk quarterback. Let's go to Carolina. What I think I see here, and I won't get too deep into it because I'm more interested in what you see, as are our listeners. But I've got some strong feelings about this player when I had no feelings for him last year. I avoided this team like the plague last year, except for Thielen, and I couldn't believe the results. Your thoughts as we move on, Carolina Panthers quarterback Bryce Young, who Darren Armani reports is being given away in the 17th round to anyone who wants him.
Yep. I believe Bryce Young, they got the new coach, Dan Cornelis. So I think it's going to improve his game, and this is his second year. You know, rookies, quarterbacks. You know, we had a exceptional player last year in CJ Stroud, and doing that process, that draft process, I kind of looked at both of those quarterbacks, and most every analyst, I'm not an analyst, but I did look at those quarterbacks, and I'm like, I said, CJ Stroud is the guy. You know, he just looked like the better quarterback to me. So I'm like, okay, and that's what it ended up being. But Bryce is in the second year now. I think he's going to show a huge improvement in his game and his overall development with that team. Plus, he's got a few better receivers. You know, he's got the tight end, Sanders. He's got Deontay Johnson coming in there, good possession receiver. And besides Thielen and then Mingo, I mean, he didn't do much last year, but I think he's going to step up a bit. So I think it's going to be a better team overall.
And the aforementioned Leggett, who Balky and I's favorite player. You've got it right. The new coach, Canales, he took, he took Geno at Seattle and got him the opportunity to be the best that he could be and actually be an NFL regular starting quarterback. And then he goes down in Tampa and took Baker Mayfield to a point where you can almost say that this is a very, very competent quarterback, and I can buy into the receivers. And that hasn't always been the case with me and Baker Mayfield when it comes to fantasy football. So he's got that success has fast-tracked him to head coach. And I think he had good coaching last year, but he might have just had too damn much of it. You know, and they didn't match up with him. Here's a guy. Here's a guy that I think will surprise, and you sure don't have to risk anything to get him, like all these other quarterbacks we're talking about tonight.
Right. But, you know, like he'll be my QB2, and I have him on 2 or 3 teams now. He's not he'd be my second quarterback. I wouldn't draft him as my QB1 at this point. But, you know, also, you know, they got the rookie running back, Brooks. He comes in healthy. You're going to have a threat in that backfield now. So that's going to help him out a lot. If they got that threat from that run, from that guy that's going to hit that line of scrimmage and shoot 60 yards down the field, that's going to help Bryce a lot. That play action pass going to be in place, and that's going to help. That's going to help.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good stuff.
That division, that's going to be a really good division with the Atlanta Falcons and Tampa Bay and the Saints. I'm looking forward to that's going to be an exciting division this year. A lot of offensive firepower in that division.
Just to show progress. That team shows progress. That's a big progress.
So I think it's going to be a good season for Bryce. So don't sleep on him.
Yeah, I think many of us are eager to write him off, but we saw what the Bears did this year with Caleb Williams, right?
Yeah.
Even though he's the number 1 pick, they're still bringing in Keenan Allen. They're still bringing in Rome Odunze. They're still bringing in DeAndre Swift. They made additions to that offensive line. And I think Carolina is getting the memo now, too. Hey, let's bring in Brooks, who could be the best running back in this draft. Let's bring in Xavier Leggett, who had an otherworldly season in the SEC last year. So there's a lot to like about Young.
It's going to be a good season for them. I hope it will. But not. I don't want to beat Atlanta because that's kind of my team.
Well, okay. So, I mean, how about Carolina loses to them like 42-39, and then you're happy with Bryce Young, and then your team still wins. That's what we root for. Brock Bowers, let's talk about him. As always, we've been talking about a lot of rookies. He's going on average at the 6'11" in FantasyPros Championship drafts this year. 10 tight ends are being drafted in front of him. At first blush, I look at this, Derek, and I'm like, God, that's a pretty good value for Brock Bowers. Are we drafting him? Are we letting him slip too far?
Yes. Right now, at this point, we let him slip too far. But I believe come mid-August, when the draft season really kicks in, I think he's going to go in the 4th round. Maybe he's going to climb up there. Maybe get up there with the Evan Ingram and with those guys in that tier of tight ends. Brock's going to climb. It's all. I was telling my son about this earlier today. I said, Brock, one reception, run for 50 yards in a preseason game, it's all over. His draft capital is going to shoot up the board. So right now, that's why it's good. I'm telling you, fantasy players out there right now, draft your players now.
Yeah.
Don't wait. I mean, this is my first year I've actually drafted in May, but now I understand what's going on here. If you don't get these players now, when you get them in the 8th, 9th round, come August, the draft capital is going to climb. You're going to have to get them early. You're going to pay for it. So draft these players now. Brock Bowers is a now draft person.
Yeah.
Draft him wherever you can. You won't regret it. He's going to be awesome this year. As long as he can stay.
Man, if you're in one of those dynasty leagues, one of those empires, you got in one of those empires yet, Brother Grier?
You got to get him. He's a wide.
Gotta get it in.
He's a half back. He's got the size, got the agility, he's got the strength, he's got the hands. He can run that football when he catches it.
Okay, Balky, I'm staying with the young players. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And I want you to jump in here too. But we have a beloved listener, Permar. And Permar, we've got to determine whether you're playing in the event. But if Permar says more like Ferrell speed, well, I'll tell you about Ferrell speed because Ferrell speed increases as we move towards fantasy football. If you come here to the KFFSC, I'll show you what Ferrell speed is. That is a speed you cannot keep up with. And then if you'll come to the Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas, we'll double down on keeping up with Ferrell speed. But look, speed position at the tight end is very, very important, right?
It's crazy. Yeah.
I like it. I like more and more what these offenses are doing with the tight end downfield.
Yes.
I think this player, Jatavion Sanders, Balky thinks he's a sneaky sleeper. I do too because of the downfield pass catching ability. I think everyone is sleeping on that, including the rest of the NFL.
Yeah.
So your thoughts on this player?
I've drafted him, and every chance I get, in 10 drafts I've had, I drafted.
We're hitting on all your favorites tonight.
Players out there in FFPC, stay away from them.
No wonder you're drafting so much. And I'll tell you, the only thing better than drafting in May is in April or something.
Yeah.
But
he's another one.
I tell you what, by September you're going to have it whittled down a little bit when we get to Planet Hollywood because I think you share something with me when we start evaluating players. We can find something we like about everybody. The 20-round draft is over, and we want to go 5 more rounds. So,
yeah. Well, it's a thing where we got the summer coming here, and you got training camp. You got these injuries. You got all these. Thank God we don't have these contract disputes right now. So like we had last year with these running backs. So that's
you
good.
can have a dispute like Goff up in Detroit after the same bunch drafted him first, and then paid him to take care of him. His dispute might be that you guys have paid me too much. I got to get something back. I don't know. Cannot stand this kind of prosperity.
Ayuk, I'm kind of worried about him a little bit. Ayuk with the 49ers, he wanted this contract renewed, but 49ers, they're not going to trade him. I believe that. They're going to keep him, but they're going to pay him.
Yeah, I was of the opinion, that's why I like the Pearsall pick so much, because I was of the opinion that there's a real possibility that Samuel or Ayuk gets moved. And now the deeper we get into drafting season, the less likely it is to happen that the Niners are just going to bring all 3 of those guys. And what happens next year, I don't know, but we care about this year right now. Like these emailers do, Derek, I want to get to them tonight. Joel in Hartford, Connecticut writes, with seemingly everyone excited about Devon Achane and Jalen Wright, should I actually be grabbing more Raheem Mostert right now? Raheem Mostert in Fantasy Pros drafts has an ADP of running back 27 at the 803. Achane is going as running back 9 at the 302. Jalen Wright is actually going a little bit deeper in the draft. He is going at running back 43 at the 11 in the 11th round. Your thoughts on Raheem Mostert here in the 8th round as a 27th running back off the board, Derek?
I like it. I like it. In fact, I have him one of my teams. You draft Mostert because now in your draft strategy, when you start off your first 4 or 5 rounds, a lot of people go in this RB0 draft strategy. They draft in wide receivers and tight ends, the first 5 or 6 picks there. And Mostert seems to be falling in that range. As your RB1, you're going to take him because A-Chain, he's going mid second, third round. He's off the board already. So I see no problem with it. So A-Chain a little bit. I am fading him. You know, I didn't fade him much last year, but I'm going to fade him a little bit here because his injuriness, and he's a smaller running back. You know, he hits the hook, he's gone. He's a fast, but now they got this other running back there. You got to have teams are loading themselves up with depth at running back because of these injuries.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to happen. Yeah,
and you've got, when we get to Planet Hollywood, when it comes to this player Mostert, I think we will actually see him, and Balky, you check me on this when we get to September, but I think we actually see him falling in the drafts because he's not going to play in the preseason, and the other guys are, and they're going to look fast. They're going to do stuff. We're going to get that Planet Hollywood long hallway talk. You know, the hallway is so long that by the time you say hello to Chris Lambert and you turn that corner there, somebody has talked so much that they even think they can convince you that Mostert is too old to play. And they've been trying to do that for 4 years, and he just keeps running past people.
Touchdown.
You know, so, yeah, so he's going to be a double-digit player.
17 touchdowns last year, for crying out loud. He had quite a few touchdowns last year.
Yeah, and if you include the receiving, he was over 20, which is crazy to think about. We have one more email here for you, Derek, and it is from Shane in Camden, New Jersey. Hey, Derek, Austin Eckler didn't return value on his ADP last year, but do you think he does this season? Thank you, sir. That is Shane in Camden, New Jersey. We appreciate you emailing in, Shane. And as I look at the ADP for Eckler this year, my God, Ferrell, mid-first round pick last year. He has fallen to a mid-8th round pick this year, running back 29. In fact, just a little bit later than Raheem Mostert, just a handful of picks later. Derek, Austin Eckler, is he going to return 8th round value this season?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He's going to be better than that. I'm very excited about Eckler this year. He's helped last year. The first week he injured himself. He got injured. I think it was a hamstring, and he was out for the first 4 weeks of the season. So he came in injured, but when you look at his production afterwards, he was nice. Mm-hmm. He had some productive that game. So, yes, with him and Brian Robinson back there, they got to protect the quarterback, the rookie quarterback. They're going to protect him, Jaden Daniels. He's going to get a lot of production out of that backfield. He's going to be third down a lot. He's going to be first down. Red zone. Remember, the guy's a red zone beast. He was the Chargers, I think, 1 year, 2 years ago, when he scored 15 touchdowns in that one season.
When he can make that one cutback step in the red zone, he's as slick and as sneaky as they get.
Eckler, where he's going right now, is a steal. It's a complete steal. So if you get a chance to draft him, take him.
Eckler in the 8th. He's going around a lot of interesting players there. That's we talked a little bit about Zach Moss tonight. That's where he's going. Jaylen Warren, who we talked a little bit about last week on the show, he's there. The rookie Trey Benson, Javonte Williams, who we touched on later on, and then obviously Mostert, Pollard, who we actually talked a little bit about last week, and Najee Harris. They're basically all those players are basically going within 6 or 7 picks of each other. So interesting, fertile ground for running backs in the 8th round. It was interesting, fertile radio tonight, for lack of a better segue. This is what we're going to say. Derek, we appreciate you joining us tonight. We will continue to follow you on the X at DE Grier 66. I congratulate you on all your success that you've had in the FFPC over the course of your career. I wish you a very happy retirement. I know you're 3 years into it or whatever, but hopefully you're enjoying it. And good luck this season, man. And hopefully if you end up cashing one of those $1 million grand prizes, you can bet your bottom dollar we'll have you back on the show to tell us all about it.
You know what, Balky, before you end me here, you know, last year I was on the July 12th draft with you guys. You and Dave Tripoli there?
Yes.
That team won me the league. And at midweek 17, the 17th week in the season last year, I was 15th place. And
how did the team end up?
At that $1 million. I was right there.
You were right there. Okay.
15 spots. I finished 39. If you go look at Fantasy Mojo's, look up the Fantasy Pros, you'll see me at number 39.
39th overall.
That night we had the live draft.
Right.
I went 3 running backs in a row with that team.
I don't recall the exact broadcast, but I'm sure Turp hated your team.
Oh, yeah. Dave jumped on me for drafting 3 running backs from one. I said, okay, watch what's going to happen.
Turp is a good player, but he hates every team that ends up winning. And God bless him. Yeah, he's a good player.
I was that close. So
that close.
Las Vegas this year. I'll be at Planet Hollywood. I got 2 drafts there. The 9-6s. I got 2 teams there to draft. And my son will be with me, Eli. So we both gonna draft the team. He's got my kid.
All right. It's a family affair. Oh, I'll definitely make sure to say hi to you when you're out there.
Dad, let's play and let's dominate. I said, okay, son, we'll dominate.
You're gonna dominate. That's what it's all about. The dominating Derek Grier joining us tonight on the show. Derek, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it. Had a lot of fun. We'll do this again sometime soon. Thank you so much, man.
All right. Thanks, guys.
That is Derek Grier, ladies and gentlemen. Follow him on the X at DEGrier66. 39th overall in the Fantasy Pros Championship last year. And 5 times he has won an FFPC main event or Fantasy Pros Championship League. Good stuff from him. A lot of fun that we had with him tonight, Ferrell. And as always, when we have a lot of fun, it usually means we don't have a lot of time for emails. So I will save them for next week.
Let's just go over.
What? You want to go over and do it?
Over. Yeah,
okay. All right, we'll do them. Let's go to Abe in Cleveland. Hi, fellas. Is the Ben Sinnott ADP getting out of control? I've been seeing this a lot, and thank you for the email. We appreciate it, Abe. I've been seeing a lot of this on the X lately. Tight end 18 is where Sinnott has moved up to. He is going in the 12th round. Now, that's behind Luke Musgrave, Cole Kmet, Pat Freiermuth, but he is now being drafted ahead of Hunter Henry, Cade Otton, Isaiah Likely, Juwan Johnson, and Tyler Conklin. I don't think it's out of control. I think it's aggressive, but I don't think it's out of control, Ferrell.
Otton and Likely are the players that I like there. You take those 2 out, you can say he would mix with all the others. It's a lot of wishing and hoping. And if I'm drafting, I'm going to schedule. If I want to draft this player, I'm going to schedule some things for August after I've seen him move a little bit.
You know what's interesting is if you are drafting right now, I think if you end up taking let's say like Andrews or Kincaid, McBride, Kelsey, any of these top guys, and it's really difficult for me in a tight end premium league to leave the draft with just one of those guys. Sinnott is an interesting guy that maybe you could flex out. And if he does hit and if he doesn't pay off, he's not going to have a Laporta or Kincaid type season, I don't think. But he might be the guy that you could put in there 5 for 50, 5 for 60 and a touch, stuff like
good.
That. Yes, and I think that's where the Sinnott things becomes very intriguing.
And that's exactly what Otton did last year. Balky, Permar is asking for Planet Hollywood dates. Just give him the FFPC thing. And it's interesting. We got to get this guy started playing. You just got to know the dates. You take a guy like Tom Smith. He has the dates for Kentucky tattooed on one leg and the dates for the FFPC tattooed on the other. I mean, you got to know when the dates. We got to get Permar into the building and get him competing with some of these guys.
I will get you those dates shortly, Permar, but always myffpc.com and just click on the live.
It's all there. It's on the front page. Right, tell you what's happening.
Mike in Salt Lake City, Ferrell. What's up, HSFF Hour? Is Aaron Rodgers safe to draft this year, or do I need to shoot higher for my quarterback? I don't think you need to shoot higher for your backup quarterback, but I don't want to go into any league with Aaron Rodgers as my starting quarterback. I do have a feeling based on his ADP right now that I will be drafting a good amount of him as my backup because I'm very comfortable with where he's going. So you don't need to shoot higher if he's your backup, but don't draft him as your starter.
No.
Let's see here. We will go to Joe in Grand Rapids. Final email we have of the night. Which Steelers running back do I need to target this season? Thank you kindly. That is Joe in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Right now, Ferrell, the Pittsburgh duo at running back, Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris, going very close to each other, I believe. Harris running back 25 at the 802, Jaylen Warren running back 31 at the 808. So that's what I was kind of talking about this before. All those running backs that are going in the 8th round right there. Though the 2 Steelers running backs are 2 of them there. 6 picks later, you can get Warren. I don't think this is a case of I'll take whichever one's cheaper. They're basically almost the same price. Do you have a feeling here on which one you like better?
No. And I don't think that's going to change. I don't think I can cure that feeling. And I think for that very reason, I'm going to stay away. And that's just If I get to the 8th round, some of the other running backs that you've mentioned, I'll pop them up to the 7 because they seem like better choices to me.
I think that I would not recommend drafting both of them, even if you could do it. Like if you want to take them both at the 7-8 turn. So sometimes there are certain situations where I think that could pay off. I don't see the Steelers running back situation drafting both of them is going to pay off. You want to draft them. I would want to have like 50% on each of them on my teams. I don't think I'd want to have much more of one than the other. Gun to my head, I think I prefer Warren a little bit better. Just because I think his pass catching chops show up a little bit more than Najee Harris's do. And Harris I do view as a little bit more of an accumulator than Warren. He's not as efficient as Warren. Don't quote me on that. I want to crunch the numbers before I officially take that stance. But just going off face value and the research I've done earlier, I do think that Warren is a little bit more efficient. So I would lean towards that way. I am leaning towards telling you to book your Planet Hollywood stay per Mar 99. As we are getting set not only for Cincinnati for KFFSC, not only Louisville for KFFSC, but we're getting set for the live events going on at Planet Hollywood this fall. They are going to go all the way through September 9th, I believe. That is correct.
That is correct. Yes,
that is correct. So they're going to start on September 5th. And they're going to go through September 9th. So
you can call Greg Sidoris and get a room.
Let's
talk about Greg.
You can also go on myffpc.com. And if you click on the main event section right up at the top, you'll have the ability to click on the Book Planet Hollywood link at that page. And you can book your stay right there. Or Greg Sidoris is another good guy. If you have his number, if you have his digits, if you have his email, you can always contact him there as well. You can always contact Ferrell, kffsc.com. That's the best way to register for your Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship events, be they online or be they live in Cincinnati and Louisville. I need to firm up my Louisville schedule with you, Ferrell, which I will do shortly. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight on this Wednesday evening. I had a blast, and I can't wait to do this again. Not this coming Friday, but the Friday after. We will do a show then.
Balky, I'll look forward to seeing you then.
Ferrell Elliott, ladies and gentlemen, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, joining me as he does each and every episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. That will complete our program for you tonight. We hope you had a great time. I know I did. I want to thank Derek Grier. I want to thank Ferrell Elliott, the FFPC, Rob, Bryce, and of course, each and every one of you for hanging out on the show with me tonight. I do want to remind you that we will be back not this Friday, but the following Friday, which would be May 24th. Jim Tracy, who has won, I believe, 18 leagues in his FFPC career, he is going to join us to talk. We'll actually get into a lot of dynasty stuff with Jim, but we'll get into some other redraft stuff with him as well. That's coming up on May 24th. You can check out tomorrow night's High Stakes Fantasy Football Show on the Better Sports Network, betternetwork.com, any of the Better Sports Network socials or the FFPC socials. It'll be me and Jim Coventry from RotoWire from 7 until 9 tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of fun as well. Fantasy Pros Championship is live. Win $1 million at myffpc.com. While you're there, register for the Best Ball Tournament and the Superflex Best Ball Tournament. Remember, the Superflex Best Ball Tournament now raised to a $100,000 grand prize at just a $35 entry. Empire Leagues and Dynasty Leagues are there as well if you want to check those out and play fantasy football 365 days a year. Just go to myffpc.com to sign up for those. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends and enemies, and click the notification bell on the page so you get notified each and every time we go live, which will be tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern, myself and Jim Coventry. Thank you so much for watching. Your early start to the weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
One of the things I do want to echo from, we always tell you to draft early, and no, I'm not just pushing you to draft because I work for the FFPC and we want to see a lot of teams sign up. But from a player standpoint, from a strategic standpoint, like Derek Grier said, there are certain players that you can get at really good deals right now that you will not be able to get in July or August or even September. Now is the time to be getting those guys. Guys like Brock Bowers going at the end of the 6th round right now. You get enough shares of him right now, you won't have to worry about taking him when he's up to, the late 4th or middle of the 4th coming up later on in the summer, because you already have your shares at the end of the 6th round. So take that to heart. Check it out. We got Fantasy Pros drafts filling tonight. I do believe the next one starts in about 45 minutes. Bryce, our favorite commissioner, is going to be commissioning that draft tonight. So sign up now. myffpc.com. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll talk with you tomorrow with Jim Coventry, and this show will go live next Friday with Jim Tracy and Ferrell Elliott. Thanks for watching, everybody.